And when I get up, after I have my cup of coffee, I'll take it off the smoker, wrap it, put it back on, and if everything is exactly the way it should be done probably by around 12, 1 o'clock. Then put it in a cooler, let it rest for about 3 hours, and then we'll break it out around 4 or 5 o'clock and slice into it.
Steve, it sounds like you're going to have an exceptional 4th of July, but maybe not as good of a 4th of July as Joey Chestnut here in El Paso. Like, you're going to be probably number 2. He'll be number 1. He's going to be winning tomorrow. But, man, 4th of July, it's going to be a good one here for everybody over here in El Paso.
Do we know what Chestnut will be eating tomorrow at Fort Bliss? Is it hot dogs or will it be something else? Do we know that for sure?
Man, if it's burritos or something, maybe it's on a level playing field. So, or tacos, something like that, Steve. You bring up a really good point. If it's hot dogs, he's got the home field advantage, definitely, even though he's in Fort Bliss.
I do think it's amazing that for the first time in God knows how many years, Chestnut's going to be in El Paso at Fort Bliss versus Nathan's. And here it is. He's going to be eating against soldiers in his hot dog eating contest. That's what it's going to be. So he's going to compete against soldiers in a 5-minute hot dog eating contest.
He's got home field advantage, home territory, man.
Yeah. By the way, cool. They're going to actually live stream this at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon.
Oh, great. Where is it going to be live streamed? Just on YouTube?
I guess. Let me see here. Let me click the link and see. Yeah, YouTube. There's even a link right now. Joey Jaws Chestnut, Fort Bliss, July 4th celebration. Oh, my God. This is crazy. Okay. You know who's putting this on?
Who?
Pro Sports MVP. You know what's interesting about Pro Sports MVP?
Okay.
I worked with them the first 10 years we did a sports expo, and they booked every guest. And I can't believe Pro Sports MVP has not reached out about trying to have us be a part of this with Joey Chestnut tomorrow. I couldn't make it anyway, but It would have been a nice courtesy to have them reach out.
Yes, Steve. How do they come to our backyard and not reach out? Yeah,
well,
I got to check them out on Instagram.
I'm about to send the founder of Pro Sports MVP a little screenshot here and be like, what the hell, man? That's not right. So that's just not fair.
Man, the promo for all this looks great, by the way, guys.
It does. It looks fantastic. So, is it even open to the public, or you don't know?
I can't tell. I just see a post on their social media page. It just says YouTube. Joey Chestnut's YouTube channel, 5 o'clock Eastern, 3 o'clock here in El Paso. Watch Joey do what he does best. It will be streamed on his end. It does not look like it's going to be open to the public from what I'm seeing right now.
No, I don't think so either. I don't think so. But it does look pretty cool. It looks very
worth
cool,
watching,
actually.
for sure.
Yeah. Anyway. I wonder if, now I'm just trying to find out if the guy that, that we worked with for years, who brought them all in, by the way. He brought in Steve Garvey. He helped us with Pete Rose. He brought in Juan Marshall, Danny White, like you name it. Every good name we had, he was a part of. So real interesting. Darryl Moose Johnson. I mean, the names go on and on. Earl Campbell. I'd love to know if he's going to be in town tomorrow. So that's real interesting. Real interesting. Anyway, good stuff as we get going here on the program today. So for whatever celebration you have on the 4th, just make sure it's a safe one, a happy one, a healthy one with your friends or loved ones. And, it's what it's all about.
Stay away from FitFam.
Stay away from FitFam. Hey, by the way, did you know that, how interesting. Do you know we're locked out of our 600 ESPN El Paso Twitter account?
No, Steve. Don't tell me this. Let me log on.
Here's what it is. Let me read this. It says here. Here's what it is. Ready?
Wow, we are.
Because X received a compliant Digital Millennium Copyright Act notice for content posted to our X account. Under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act,
I got it.
Copyright owners can notify X claiming that a user has infringed their copyrighted works.
I got in.
Did you?
God. Yes. Thank goodness, Steve.
By the way, all right, I guess I just had to review the policy. Do we know what we infringed on?
No, I'm looking around this. We post a lot of our original content when we post stories. I'm looking at our last maybe 2 weeks. Most of the stuff is shared content that we're doing. So, yeah, man. I don't know. Is it Mickey Mouse using that ESPN logo. I mean, we're pretty licensed to do that kind of stuff. I don't know what
it's our logo.
I don't know what this is.
Who reported us to X? And what do? We used to be, years ago, we were verified.
Okay, I think if you refresh, I think I went through it. I think whatever our report was already debunked, so you might be able to refresh and go back in and log in properly, because now, after bypassing that, I'm in.
Hang on one second. Let me see. I'm going to go back to Twitter. Yep, I'm in too. All right, that's good to know. Yeah, that was weird. I've never seen that before.
Thank you, Elon. We got back in quick.
Man, I like this. El Paso Visuals Deportivos. Wasn't me. Well, that's good, El Paso Visuals. Happy
we didn't
it wasn't
steal
you.
anything from you, man.
Yeah, we usually credit him. Well, I say usually.
You better credit him.
Yeah, exactly right. So that has been the case. Anyway, we got a lot to cover on the show today. Jay Jaffe is going to be next, and we'll spend a little time talking baseball and beer with Jay. Later on, Jeff Erickson. Later on, story time with Hags. And, of course, your phone calls and comments, 505-6009. Let's go to Charlie 1. Get it started right with traffic. And we're back here on Sports Talk as we get ready for the 4th of July and Independence Day around baseball. Who better to talk a little baseball here than Jay Jaffe, who joins us from Fangraphs.com. In fact, Jay has a couple of terrific tributes up. The first one was on Willie Mays. The latest, which came up today, is on the baby bull, Orlando Cepeda. Jay, welcome back, and let's start it off with your tributes. It has been a tough 10 days for Giants fans. First with the Say Hey Kid, and obviously now with Orlando Cepeda.
Yeah, and it was interesting for me to learn. I'm an old guy, but I'm young enough that I didn't get to see either of those guys play. How. When the Giants moved to San Francisco in 1958, Giants fans didn't really take to Willie Mays, who was already a superstar, but they really took to Orlando Cepeda, who homered in his Major League debut, which was their first game in San Francisco, and really kind of embraced the culture and was embraced in return and was the most popular player on the team for a while there. Obviously, he had some ups and downs, got traded away, won a championship elsewhere after not being able to win in San Francisco, although they did get to the World Series. Had some problems, got arrested, did some time, but came back and rehabilitated himself and was really beloved by the team and their fans right through the end of his career.
You think about the nucleus that the Giants had in the 60s. Mays, Cepeda, McCovey, Marichal. And crazy enough, Marichal is now the only one left of those four.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, the Giants were really ahead of the curve in signing Latin American talent. I mean, they kind of learned the lessons of the Dodgers, and they were ahead of the curve when it came to integration as well. They signed a lot of guys out of the Dominican Republic and out of Puerto Rico and other Latin American countries, and they really built a talented squad. Marichal, the top Dominican pitcher, the Alou brothers, outfielders, and all that. They only got one pennant, but they were second like 4 years in a row just before division play began, and one wonders what would have been like if we'd had the division format at the very least back then, because that was a talented squad that might have been able to do some damage in the postseason.
I look back at Cepeda and didn't even realize that he was only the second black Puerto Rican to play in the major leagues, Roberto Clemente being the first. I didn't know that it was taking really 4 years after Clemente broke in for Cepeda to get his chance in 1958.
Yeah, well, he got signed in 1954, 55, and, he worked his way there. He was 20 years old when he reached the majors, so it's not like he got stuck in the minors for very long.
Yeah.
It just, that was the pace of things. Was that it was slow going for the black Latino players, and I think that's a really underappreciated aspect of the integration story in general. There had been white Puerto Ricans or light-skinned Puerto Ricans and light-skinned Hispanics from other countries as well. But the darker-skinned ones were subject to the color line, and it just took a lot longer for them to get accepted. And then the language barrier was another issue, and that was particularly an issue on the Giants in the early '60s. Manager Alvin Dark tried to get all the Hispanic players to stop speaking Spanish in their dugout and clubhouse, which was patently ridiculous.
I'll tell you this much also. I loved your profile today at Fangraphs because you really kind of gave a great backstory on Cepeda, and you talked about everything. You talked about what he had to overcome. You kind of put, in perspective also playing ball out of Puerto Rico and what that was like. And in fact, I thought it was great when you brought up Perucho, somebody that was also, I guess, known as the Babe Ruth of Puerto Rico and Babe Cobb. It's fun because you put it in a nice historical perspective.
Yeah, with Cepeda, I think you really do have to consider that historical perspective, because his father was really one of the first, if not the first, Puerto Rican superstar, and probably would have played in the Negro Leagues, except for the fact that he recognized in himself that he did not have the temperament to deal with the racism and the Jim Crow laws that he would face if he came to the U.S. He said, his son said he was too hot-tempered, and he had some personal issues. Perucho did, drank too much, and the Babe Ruth comparisons had more to do with his hard living. He was a little bit more of a Ty Cobb type, high-average, aggressive hitter. He beat out Josh Gibson for a batting title in the Puerto Rican League in 1939 and played with Gibson and Satchel Paige and Cool Papa Bell on dictator Rafael Trujillo's 1937 team, an all-star squad of Negro Leagues players that was there to promote his reelection for dictator. And there's wild stories that came out of that I didn't even have room to go into, but kind of a win-or-else situation that really put Satchel Paige on the spot. If you've read any of his biographies, it gets addressed in there.
Jay Jaffe with us talking baseball, and a little bit later some beer here on the program as we get ready for Independence Weekend, July 4th, and Jay giving us the lowdown as we talk about his tribute to Orlando Cepeda. Meanwhile, back to the big leagues, Jay. The Yankees have fallen on hard times as of late, especially with their pitching getting rocked. Luis Gil doesn't look nearly as dominant as he did the first couple of months of the season. Stanton's been hurt, and the Yankees are trying to find some bats near the bottom of their order, and suddenly the Baltimore Orioles have crept into first place in the American League East.
Yeah, it's funny. I went away to Cape Cod a couple weeks ago, about 2.5 weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago now, and the narrative totally shifted on the two New York teams. The Mets started winning, and the Yankees started struggling, and the Yankees have kind of hit a wall. They're banged up in the infield. A lot of guys struggling to produce. DJ LeMahieu, Gleyber Torres, some of the outfielders, and Luis Gil has kind of hit a wall. And we're talking about a guy who barely threw at all, in competition last year, and he was already going to be on an innings limit. And I think some of what we're seeing now is just the fact that he's thrown so many innings, and he was great for a while, and now, lost a bit of command, and he's kind of struggling a bit. And I suspect he's probably going to take a break from the rotation here in the not-too-distant future because, they've got a limited number of bullets with him, and I think they want to keep him available for the stretch, when hopefully he's figured out some of the issues he's dealing with.
The Yankees called up Ben Rice, and he's done a fine job at first, although he had that one mental mistake a few games back where he let a ball against Toronto go. That should have been an out. He wanted to see if it went foul or fair, and it went fair, and then Carlos Rodon got bombed that same inning, and the Yankees ended up losing that game. But he's been okay replacing Rizzo. If you were right now Brian Cashman, and you're trying near the deadline to make some moves and keep the Yankees at the top and try to win the division, what need do you address the most?
Well, I think you need some more infield help. I mean, I think Rice has been adequate. He's not really a first baseman. He's not really a catcher either anymore. But he doesn't have a lot of first base experience. He's a work in progress. His defense is never going to be good enough to be a regular catcher in the major leagues. So he's got to kind of undergo that transition, which is going to take a while. But, when I look at them, I mean, Glaber's not producing. DJ LeMahieu's been a disaster. Obviously, Rizzo's down. They need help all around the infield. And they traded for J.D. Davis. Maybe he can help. I'm not so sure. I still think they need another good infielder there. They're going to need some bullpen help. They probably need another starter now, especially with Clark Schmidt out and Heel struggling. They're going to have some needs here if they're going to stay in this.
More with Jay as we keep things moving, but it is the bottom of the hour. We've got Michael Plundo standing by with this Sports Center update. All right, Michael, thank you very much, and welcome back, everybody. Jay Jaffe talking baseball and beer with us here as we continue on the show. Now, you mentioned just a little while ago that while the Yankees have really fallen on tough times, the Mets have caught fire, and they absolutely have. Everything seems to be going right for the Mets. Even when Brandon Nimmo faints in the shower and is forced to go to the hospital and misses a game, he comes back and provides heroics off the bench on another extra innings win in Washington against the Nats. The Mets look like they were going to be sellers. Now all of a sudden you kind of have the feeling that if this keeps going, they could easily be buyers with Steve Cohen come deadline time.
Yeah, and I have to say, I'd be a little nervous about that. I don't think this team is that strong. Granted, it's only going to take a 500-ish record to get into playoffs, and that's right where the Mets are. I don't think you want to overspend. I think you have to be cognizant of where you are in the building cycle here. This was supposed to be something of a retooling, rebuilding year for the Mets. When they traded away Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander last year, but right now, yeah, I think you'd probably be more likely to buy than to sell. I mean, especially trading Pete Alonso seems like it's not going to be in the cards. Whereas that looked like it might be on the table when the Mets were several games below 500. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to keep him, but I don't think you can realistically trade a guy like that when a playoff berth is at least plausible. I do think they have to prioritize playing, the players who are being productive for them, and that probably means much less of Jeff McNeil, who's just really been sort of a disaster for them this year. They're going to have some needs at the deadline that they want to address, and we'll see what happens.
I'll tell you what, I'm looking at the National League right now, and even though the division leaders all have pretty comfortable leads with the Phillies, Brewers, and Dodgers, the wild card race is interesting. It really is, Jay. Atlanta, you mentioned the Mets, the Cardinals, the Padres, and then even the Giants and some other teams are all in the mix right now, and kind of makes for a fun next couple months.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting. I think the thing we're going to see, however, at the deadline is that if 25 teams are convinced that they're in it, that can prevent a lot of blockbusters from happening. You'll see a lot of, did this team do enough? And because teams are going to be reluctant to sell to the extent that they might if there were fewer playoff berths and if they were further out. It's easy to, I think, try to convince yourself, if only as a PR move, that you're still in it. But there are very few teams, besides the Marlins really and the Rockies, that couldn't get there. Maybe the Cubs at this point. They started out well and they've really kind of fallen on some hard times. But it should be interesting to see. I think it'll be, I don't really like this race to 82 wins or whatever for the playoffs, but I can't deny that it's going to be exciting to see somebody try to pull this out.
You're right. I'm interested to see what happens with Milwaukee if they can keep everybody off and fend off St. Louis in the Central, especially since they just picked up Aaron Savali in a trade from the Rays. I know Savali hasn't been his usual self this season with Tampa, but historically he's been a good starting pitcher, and it'll definitely give Milwaukee an opportunity to try to upgrade that rotation.
Yeah, and I think you have to consider Milwaukee has a great track record with young pitchers. They're one of the best at developing pitchers, and they can certainly take somebody with like Savali who may be underperforming and help him reach his potential, because they know pitch design and they're very into the metrics and can help maximize what a player's doing. I mean, that's how they've done this the last several years. Is been very good at taking these guys, when they're on a comparatively low budget and turning out competitive team after competitive team.
No doubt. We'll keep an eye on that. And then before you know it, it's the All-Star break, and then we're ready for the second half of the season. So there's a lot of good things happening in Major League Baseball as we wind things up with you here today. Jay, what beer would you like to profile as we head into Independence Day and Independence Weekend?
Okay, here's a fun one. We've had it before, and it's maybe a familiar one, but I had the chance to have some when I was up in Cape Cod. This is the Zero Gravity Jaws Czech Pilsner. It's got a shark fin on it. I don't think we need too much explanation here as to why this is a favorite on multiple levels here. It's a good, smooth, drinkable Czech Pilsner here. It, quote-unquote, checks all the boxes. It's 5.4% ABV. This is, I believe, Zero Gravity is, I believe, a New Hampshire brewery. No, sorry, Vermont brewery. I always get those two states confused here. But they do good stuff, and especially good lagers and pilsners as well as good IPAs. So really enjoyed having that one. It was a great beachside beer.
Isn't there a Vermont beer that's considered one of the most sought-after and rare beers over the years, as we've talked about? And I forget which one it is, but yep. I always feel like you've mentioned it like one of the holy grails of beer.
Yes, Heady Topper, brewed by Alchemy, Alchemy. And that's actually a little bit more available now. We see that in Whole Foods sometimes down here in New York City, which is really cool. It's still a special occasion beer, and it's a strong one, about 8% double IPA, but really one of the great beers.
Terrific stuff. Jay, enjoy the 4th. Thanks for the time, and we'll look forward to talking baseball again with you here real soon.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Steve.
Jay Jaffe, folks, as we continue on Sports Talk. Take a time out, come back, and plenty more as we get you ready for Chihuahuas baseball in a couple of hours. It's 600 ESPN El Paso. Sports Studios, he's dressed out in his hot pink FC Juarez short-sleeve jersey and his Schoolyard Sports cap with Lane Frank. That's not the trucker cap, is it? Is that that's the other version?
Yeah, this is the regular one. You have the trucker ones all right behind you.
Yeah, it is. We have a couple of trucker ones here. We got trucker ones everywhere, that's for sure. We also have right now Michael Plundo, who is wearing a Cam Reddish New York Knicks jersey, about as random a jersey as it possibly gets. But, Alberto, there's a story behind this one, isn't there?
Yeah, I bought a bunch of stuff from my friend who still works at Lids a while ago, and this was one of those things. And then I was looking at it, and I was like, I don't even know why I bought this. I don't even wear basketball jerseys. So then I came in here, I offered it to you, see if you wanted to give it to your son. You said no, and then he jumped on it.
Yeah, he did. I mean, let me tell you this. I have a small that I thought it was a large for myself, but it was a small, and I gave it to my son, and I looked at it, and it's like swimming on him as a small. So I'm like, well, you're gonna have to grow a little bit, kiddo. So when I saw that thing was medium, I'm like, well, I don't want to wear a medium. And then I was like looking into the studio, and I saw Michael Plundo with a Knicks jersey on. I go, hey man, that looks cool on you. Very nice, good. Hey Mike, you can add that to the collection.
Yeah, I don't have much basketball jerseys. The only other one I have is a Manu Ginobili Spurs jersey that I got when I was in 4th grade. So it's nice to add to the collection.
Very good. And you don't really have an NBA team, right?
I'm a Spurs fan, but I wouldn't say I'm like a crazy guy like them. I am with all the Pittsburgh teams.
Would you like to get a Wemby jersey just because he's going to be the face of the franchise for the next 10-plus years?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And being close to San Antonio, I definitely kind of want to go see a Spurs Victor Wembanyama game because I have a couple of buddies that are from San Antonio, and they've floated the idea around to me, and I think I need to take them up on that.
Lubbock to San Antonio is a long drive, isn't it?
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but I think it's about 7 to 8 hours, but don't quote me on that.
All right, I thought it was a lot longer than that, but if you can get there in 7 or 8, that's not bad. I mean, it's like 7 going from here to Phoenix these days, so that wouldn't be so terrible. So good, man. Enjoy that. And the Cam Reddish Knicks jersey looks good on you, even though Cam Reddish played for like a minute with the New York Knicks. I mean, Adrian, I don't even know if he even got off the bench more than like 4 or 5 games the entire time he was there.
So 5 hours, 37 minutes according to Google Maps. Not a bad drive there for, maybe a day trip or something like that to San Antonio from Lubbock. But, yeah, the best Cam Reddish moment I could think of, Steve, maybe coming off the bench, scoring over 10 points for the Knicks and maybe a victory. There's one that I have in my head where he was making a lot of buckets against the 76ers, against Embiid. But, yeah, not a lot of great moments for Cam Reddish in New York. Sorry, man. R.J. Barrett, Cam Reddish, Zion Williamson all played on one team together at at Duke. So it's crazy to think where these guys are at now in the NBA and where everybody projected them to be.
You're right. It just goes to show you it's far from an exact science. You never know who's going to hit and who's going to bust. You really don't. There's never, look at all the top lottery picks that have not turned into what they should be. So
good point. Yeah, I mean, that was the star-studded team, Duke, that year that had the big three, R.J. Barrett, Zion, Cam Reddish. Everybody thought, man, these guys are going to be surefires in the NBA, and it doesn't always turn out that way.
Reading a really good story about how the Giants let Saquon Barkley go because their management team believes that running backs past the age of 27 are on the decline. And they looked at his usage at Penn State, his usage in the NFL, and decided they did not want to pay him $12 million a season to run the football for him. The Eagles said, thank you very much. We'll give you the $12.5 million. No problem, Giants. You're dumb enough to let Saquon Barkley walk. We'll pick him up. But this is a really interesting story about running backs and what is that age where they really start to decline in a big way. Now, I'm looking at 27. I think that's insane because if you look at the numbers, all right, now, by the way, what's a better indicator, yards per game or yards per carry, in your opinion?
It's a great one. I'd go yards. Man.
Yards per carry, right?
You're going yards per carry?
Yeah, because think about this. Let's just say that a team runs you more. You're going to get more yards per game.
Yeah,
so
fair enough.
You have
Let's
to figure yards per carry.
Yeah, because then you look at some of the A.J. Dillon numbers, they're like 45 yards, and same with Aaron Jones. So, yeah, I'm with you on that.
So listen to this. Okay, Derrick Henry, 5 yards per carry before turning 27, 4.3 yards per carry after turning 27. Frank Gore, 4.8 yards per carry before 27, 4.1 yards after 27. Christian McCaffrey, well, there's your difference. 4.6 yards pre-27, 5.4 yards per carry after turning 27. Aaron Jones, Mr. Consistency, 60 yards per game before 27 and 5 yards per carry, 62.9 yards per game and 5.1 after 27. He's like the one guy in this whole list where there's no drop-off whatsoever, almost the exact same production for Aaron Jones before turning 27 and after turning 27. It's fascinating.
It is, and I'm very excited to see what Aaron Jones can now do in Minnesota, especially now with basically a new team around him, J.J. McCarthy as the future guy. And to touch up on your Saquon Barkley point, I'm actually working on an article right now that is previewing the NFC East. So, spoiler alert, the next article will be NFC East.
Now, you've already written about the NFC North. Let's talk about all your previews that are up so far at 600ESPNElPaso.com.
Let's do it.
Okay, so you have the NFC North.
Yep.
That's up. And now have you done other divisions, or is that the first one?
I've done the NFC West and the NFC North so far. I'm starting off with the NFC, and I plan to go in the AFC once I'm done with the NFC South after the East.
Excellent. And if people are going to check those out, tell everybody what's in the articles and kind of all the work you're putting into it right now.
Well, you can expect a little bit of statistics, a little bit of information about who the head coach is, general manager, how they finished the season prior, and you can also expect a last year overviews and new additions that they did this past offseason. Like, for example, in the NFC North, I talked about how the Vikings, of course, added Aaron Jones, drafted J.J. McCarthy, moved on from Kirk Cousins. So basically an overview of where the team is now and where they were a year ago and what I think they could be in the future.
Full deep dive is what you're telling me.
Yep, full analysis, and I even give a ceiling and a floor of where I think this team could be in the season.
Nice. So you're saying you're giving us best case, worst case scenarios. Do you predict wins, or how far do you go?
I just go to ceiling and floor. I don't give an exact record prediction or a division finish. I just go with the ceiling and floor, kind of to see where this team could be. Like for the Vikings, I did a ceiling of 12-5 and a floor of 9-8. So stuff like that.
Gotcha. All right, check it out, folks. 600 ESPNElPaso.com. So the NFC West and the NFC North with Michael Plundo and his predictions for us as we continue. Let's go to Eddie. He's out in Fort Bliss, and he joins us next here on the show. Eddie, how are you?
I'm doing well, and yourself, Steve?
Good, thanks, Eddie. Are you going to go watch Joey Chestnut tomorrow? Eat hot dogs at 3 o'clock.
I just saw Joey Chestnut today over at the PX over at Fort Bliss doing a meet and greet and autographs.
Oh, really? So you're able to meet him and get an autograph?
Yeah. He was there. I went to lunch about 11:30 this morning, and he was there at around 11:30.
Eddie, we need that photo. We need that. We'll share it on social media.
I didn't take it. No offense to Joey Chestnut, I didn't want to wait in the line. There was like 25, 30 people in line.
Wait a minute, that's a long line? 25 or 30? I mean, I was going to say if you were telling me 100 people in line, that would be bad. But 25 people is nothing, man. That line should have gone down from 25 to 0 in about 5 minutes.
I only had 45 minutes to eat, though.
Oh, okay. You're on a time crunch.
I wasn't pulling a Joey Chestnut and downing 5 hot dogs and running back to work.
Makes sense. Yeah, I got you. Well, still.
So, all-star roster. Well, okay, first, I would say cutoff is the second contract because by 27, if you have somebody who is like, let's say, Saquon Barkley, who came in at 21, that's a lot of tread on the tires right there.
Yeah, that's the Giants' philosophy. So do you believe that the Eagles made a mistake by throwing $12.5 million out at Saquon?
I even go back historically. With the exception of maybe Barry Sanders, everybody else has gone down on that second contract. So I would say $12 million is probably a little bit too much.
Okay, that's fair. It is. I mean, Aaron Jones has been it's funny enough, Aaron Jones is like the most consistent running back on the list. Like, he's basically the exact same past 27 as he was before 27. I'm just fascinated to see if the Vikings use him more than the Packers.
Possibly. I would say if you have to look at it, though, again, because remember, we don't have the old days where you would stay in as a senior or junior, long junior, short senior, like a redshirt junior or a true senior. So when they're coming out now, they're coming out at 20, 21, as opposed to coming out at 24, 23, 24 like they used to.
Yeah, what did Aaron come out at? 22? Is that about right, Adrian? Was he 22 when he came out for the minors?
Right. Yes, that sounds right.
All right. But, yeah, I get what you're saying.
So the next thing, all-star rosters are being released as we speak. They just have the American League infield released right now. I'm waiting to still see on the outfield, but so far we have Guerrero at first, Altuve at second, Gunnar Henderson at short, Jose Ramirez at third, Adley Rutschman at catcher, and Yordan Alvarez as the DH.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
I can see that. I can really nothing there that I'm actually upset with.
No, not at all. I'm interested to see if Vladdy is going to be if he's going to be a Blue Jay after the trade deadline.
Yeah, I honestly think they're going to dump him. And the name that nobody's talking about that I see him dumping is Barrios, because you've got a quality starting pitcher right there. You've got at least 4 teams that need a quality starting pitching. There's not much that's going to be available in the market. Let's see what happens.
Yep. And that would be interesting, too. If you get, if Jose Barrios is traded I would love to see where he ends up going when it's all said and done. I think it's Barrios, but yes, you're right. Absolutely right.
Well, you have yourself a good one, brother.
Happy 4th. Take care of yourself. Thanks for the call.
You as well.
Man, Joey Chestnut.
30 people.
But you're on a time crunch. You got to have your lunch. See, that's the hardest part, though. When you've got a 45-minute lunch, and you're seeing Joey Chestnut, you can't. I mean, like, what would you do, Alberto? Would you waste your whole lunch trying to meet Joey Chestnut to get a picture and an autograph, or are you eating and just watching the line and that's it?
I hate lines, so 25, 30 people, that's definitely not going to work for me. So I would have hit the overview selfie, like just kind of take a selfie of yourself and him in the frame,
in the background.
In the background, yeah. Just be like, I saw Joey Chestnut, and this is my proof.
Adrian, what about you?
That's a great. Actually, I like Alberto's idea. My idea was not as good, so I'm just going to stick with that one. That's a great one. We would have accepted that one from Eddie from Fort Bliss. So now our listeners know. Whenever you see celebrities, you got it. Don't stand in line. We don't need you to stand in line. Just take a picture of you and the celebrity in the vicinity of that photo. So good stuff, Alberto.
Michael, any thoughts?
I'm with Alberto there. I'm not a big line guy myself, so I mean, if I see one that's over 25 guys, I'm not going to go in it. I'm just going to call it a loss and just move on.
All right, I think that's fair. Just give up and not even bother with that whole thing. So that's good. And by the way, you got to love the fact that Joey Chestnut, the line, by the way, from what I understand, okay, listen to this. The line right now for Joey Chestnut at Fort Bliss tomorrow. 37.5 hot dogs in 5 minutes.
Wow, man.
Are we going over or under 37.5?
I think over. I think you always have the 4th of July tradition is always bet the over for Joey Chestnut. Don't even worry about the number. Just bet the over.
I bet he hits 40 in 5 minutes. That's just what I think. I think he'll go 40 and 5. I could see him eating. Number. I could see him eating 8 hot dogs and buns per minute for 5 minutes. I could see that. I could.
I like it, man. I think it's gonna be great. Shout out to Joey doing it for America, doing it on the 4th, doing it here in El Paso,
doing it for Fort Bliss.
Let's go.
Atta baby. Way to go, Joey. We love you. All right. Take a time out, come back. We'll do a little Jeff Erickson next. Stay with us from Rotowire.com. Jeff will give us some fantasy outlook as we continue with Charlie 1 in this traffic update.
I'm Michael Plundo.
Appreciate it, Michael. Thanks very much. We're back right now with Jeff Erickson from Rotowire.com. Oh, there's so many rookies getting an opportunity in fantasy baseball. Let's just jump right in and start it off with a guy that really has kind of started off with a bang. 2 home runs in his first 13 at-bats. John Kenzie Noel from Cleveland. Give us the lowdown.
You know, he's a legit prospect, maybe albeit one that's still needing some refinement. Only 21 years old, though. Pretty decent batter's eye. I don't think he has a ton of defensive value. He's a big, big dude. He might sit against a lot of right-handers. He is playing tonight against a righty, but I noticed that he sat yesterday for the Guardians up against the White Sox. But yeah, good amount of power. He was my consolation prize in some leagues where I was outbid on Noelvi Marte and or Heston Kjerstad wasn't available. I went with Marte instead. I understand there's some risk of him not being the full-time guy, though, or a platoon guy. So, that's something to watch for there. Cleveland is a little bit of a deeper roster. They've already, called up and sent down Kyle Manzardo before. So kind of have to watch that one closely.
Tell me more about Heston Kjerstad, who got the call back up, and what to expect from him since really he had nothing left to prove in AAA.
Agreed on that, and this time it seems like they gave him a real call-up this time. In the case of Kjerstad, the first time he got called up, if you recall, Ryan Mountcastle was under evaluation to see if he needed to be put on the 7-day concussion IL. He did not. He only sat out 1 day, and Kjerstad's playing time was pretty sporadic after that. This time, last week, he started 5 games out of 7. You'll take that. And, of course, he hit 2 homers, one of which being a grand slam. That tends to increase your playing time in the future.
Very true. You mentioned Noelvi Marte. He's was just off his 80-game suspension for the Cincinnati Reds. Showed us a little something last year. Now he takes over at third base. Are you bullish on Marte?
Yeah, I am in his skills. I was targeting him before that suspension quite a bit. Homer tonight already, up against Carlos Rodon. You like to see that. He struggled in his ramp up, but keep in mind it was basically his spring training against pitchers that were literally in midseason form. So it's easy to kind of forgive that a little bit. And he's already had more extra base hits in less than a week at the big league level than he did in that whole AAA stint. So hit tool is really good with him. He runs a little bit. The team runs, so that's always good too.
Yeah, absolutely right. And by the way, you mentioned Carlos Rodon. He's been a disaster for the Yankees, hasn't he?
Sure has. Last 3 starts have been bad. This is supposed to be a better start, obviously, against the Reds. Their lineup that just got shut out by Lance Lynn on Sunday. Marte coming back helps, but they're still missing, T.J. Friedl. They're still missing Matt McClain. They're still missing Christian Encarnacion Strand. Others have dropped off from last year, like Will Benson has dropped off quite a bit. Jonathan India has been hot lately, but prior to that, he had been a big disappointment. So, it's a roster that, they thought people thought was going to be one of the above-average lineups in baseball, and it hasn't been that so far this year.
James Wood, a lot of hype around the former Padres prospect who was dealt out to Washington, making his debut this week. Yeah,
absolutely. And, big guy, but yet runs a little bit, had 10 stolen bases in the minors, but he's 6'7", 235, big guy. But and despite that big strike zone, he doesn't strike out a ton. He does walk a bunch, too, and that might just be discretion, the better part of valor for AAA pitchers. But, the fact is he's laying off a lot of the stuff that's out of the strike zone, and you like to see that. One of our top 10 prospects on the Rotowire prospect list. So, probably the best prospect call-up, short of Jackson Holliday that we're going to see. Holliday still probably has a higher ceiling still, but Wood's a real one here.
Pitchers to talk about. Michael Mercado had a nice debut for the Phils. He was able to beat the Cubs.
Yeah, he was. And, stepping into a situation that's as pretty positive as it gets. I mean, you've got, the Phillies organization, even with, Harper and Schwarber hurt right now. I mean, they're still such a strong lineup, a great bullpen behind them, a really good team. This is a good spot for him to be in. Now, it might be a temporary one. It might be one, until either Taijuan Walker or Spencer Turnbull returns. But for now, he gets a nice little spot to be the 5th starter.
Davis Daniel, what an interesting name, and what a great first start of the season for him. Goes 8 innings, gives up only 4 hits, and doesn't give up a run, striking out 8 against Oakland.
Yeah, that's a nice start. He gets them again tonight. So we'll see if he can do that again, repeat it. Second time through usually is a little tougher for a pitcher, especially one that is not considered like one of the top prospects in the game. But sometimes that can still be a good debut. Sometimes teams seeing a pitcher for the first time will struggle a little bit, and then they'll get a little bit more of an idea of what they're about and get him the second time. But, yeah, absolutely, and he steps in with Patrick Sandoval out for the season.
How about Christian Scott of the Mets getting another try?
Yeah, so far up 4-0. They're in the bottom of the 4th on that one there. He didn't do much to deserve that demotion. It was more the way they had all those off days centered around the London series. But he had a whip of 105. That'll play. And obviously his prospect pedigree is good. It probably allowed the Mets to manage his workload so he can go deeper in the season. And the Mets have played their way into the wild card contention in a very muddled National League. I think they might even be favorites to win one of those spots.
All right, I talked earlier about the MLB barometer. What else you want to talk about and profile on the Rotowire? Not just for baseball, but all sports, including a massive amount of soccer going on right now. Jeff, we've got the Copa, we've got the Euros, a lot happening.
Yeah, sure is. And you mentioned it, Team USA flaming out like they did. Feel bad for the Copa organizers. They lost both USA and Mexico. I mean, they still have Messi, although he's banged up, and they still have Brazil, but they now have Neymar. It's not quite the spectacle that they had hoped it has been. But at Rotowire, we've got that covered. But we also have a new set of composite rankings for fantasy football. You want to spend some of your fourth studying for your first draft? Well, there you go. That's up. That's 4 of us with our top 150 and a set of composite rankings to go with that there. Obviously, trade deadline, as we talked about, is coming up. all sorts of prospect coverage, and just your regular coverage there as well. Check it all out for free. Free peek behind the paywall, rotowire.com/free.
All right, I'm looking right now. I'm clicking the round table because I always like to see the round table, and I'm trying to see where everybody has Aaron Jones pegged.
I knew you were going to go there.
You better believe
it. Exactly where you'd go.
Yep, and I'm looking. I gotta figure out where he is on this list and see how help me out. Where do you have Aaron Jones? And that'll at least give me an idea. Oh, there he is.
All right,
I found him. Just found him.
I'm pulling him up there myself. I have him as second highest on our list. I have him at 41. The four of us, the range goes from 35 to 79. I like the lack of competition he'll have in that backfield for Minnesota. New team. Injury history and age keeps him down a little bit there, and perhaps the fact that Kevin O'Connell likes to throw the ball, have his team throw the ball so much, may kind of downgrade him just a little bit there. I don't think he has the same offensive line that he had in Green Bay, and that's something to watch for there a little bit too. I mean, he's just holding off Ty Chandler.
I'm hoping. You know what I'm hoping? I'm hoping he becomes a force in the passing game for them.
He could. I mean, he's got the skills. There's no doubt about that. I think he'd go higher if we could trust that he could make it through the season. Yeah. But he just missed so much time last year, and I think that's going to weigh on everybody's mind a little bit.
Man, I am so predictable. As soon as you mentioned top 150, you knew exactly what I was going to say next. That's pretty good, Jeff.
UTEP legend Aaron Jones, of course. Why not?
That's right. Hey, before I let you go, what does the Erickson family have planned on the 4th?
So our neighborhood's great. We have our little subdivision. In the morning, there's a parade that goes up and down every street in our subdivision. People rent golf carts, ourselves included. They'll decorate them like little floats. Some people have vintage cars or just a truck. They'll decorate. Kids will ride their bikes. Some will pull their kids in wagons or whatever. We have a bunch of people have block parties. We try to block off the streets, and then we're unincorporated, which means we get away with all sorts of illegal fireworks. So it should be a lot of fun. We'll just sit on our lawn and watch all the idiots light off their fireworks. It's fun.
Sounds legendary, man. Have a great time with the parade, the fireworks, and everything in between. And as always, we appreciate you giving us a little time on the show today, Jeff.
You bet, Steve. Take care. Happy 4th.
You too. He's Jeff Erickson, folks. Follow him on Twitter and X at Jeff_Erickson, and check out all of his great work at the team at Rotowire.com. We'll come back, wrap up hour 2 in a moment. Stay with us. Sports Talk continues. It's 600 ESPN El Paso. Sports Talk still to come. Story time with Hags. He'll join us a little bit later in the show as we get ready for Chihuahuas baseball at the bottom of the 6 o'clock hour. Saw this. No extra time for Copa in the knockout stage. They go right to shootouts unless it's the finals. Is this the right move, or when you're dealing with the knockout round like the Copa America, should they give teams the extra time before just jumping right into a shootout to decide who will advance?
I really like this because it eliminates that buffer between the regular time and the penalties, where sometimes a team will play to tie, and then the game gets really boring. So they'll park the bus, everyone will fall back. You'll have 11 guys defending, and then you'll have one team continuously making attacks, and nothing happens because they're just defending. So that way, teams battle it out for 90 minutes. You play your heart out because you don't want to go to the extra time. You don't want to go to penalties. You want to decide it now.
Right.
And so it's kind of do or die in those first 90. So I like that. That makes a lot of sense.
Would you like to see eventually USL Championship go to this format for the regular season? So, in other words, let's just say you finish in a tie and you go to a shootout. The loser of the shootout will get a point. The winner of the shootout will get 3 points. Kind of like what the NHL would do with their games, where they go right to the shootouts if they finish with overtime, and then there's no winner. Would that be something that you think would be a positive in USL Championship?
In my opinion, yes. I mean, I just don't like it when we play 90 minutes of soccer and then no one walks out a winner.
Yeah.
That really it irritates me, and it makes for a boring product at the end of the day. So I would go for something like that because penalties are always really fun.
They are fun.
When I was a kid and when I was growing up, I wanted it to go to penalties. I wanted them to call a penalty, and they never did. Now they're a lot more common. So I would go for something like this. I don't know about the purists of the game. I don't know how they would take it, as that would kind of disrupt the format a tiny bit. But I'm all for it. Just you go for something new. You're a lower division league. Just have at it. Have some fun.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. But I just feel like it would just add to the entertainment factor because going into a match, worst case, you're getting a shootout. And what I mean by, I guess worst case, you're losing. But I mean, if there's a tie, they're going to settle it with a shootout.
And it's the same format. The teams are going to battle it out for 90 minutes, not wanting to go to a shootout. Sure,
because they realize they have a good chance to lose then. That's the way it would work.
Yeah, and in those instances, the quote-unquote worst team benefits. You always see it. The best team always gets the short end of the stick.
Let me go to Luis. He joins us next as Sports Talk continues. What's going on, Luis?
Venezuela es el equipo chico. Venezuela y Argentina. Argentina, baby. Because my team for my country, Mexico, they suck. They should bring ¿cómo se llama? What is his name? Maybe the young man that's with you can help me. Aguirre.
Javier Aguirre.
As a head coach. ¿Cómo se llama? What is his name? Ask him. He's
right here. He's listening to you. He's listening to you try with your train of thought. Do we know who he's talking about?
Yeah, Javier Aguirre.
El Vasco Aguirre.
Yeah.
That's the man. But what happened to the U.S., man? I left
the U.S. a disaster. They can't score. That's their problem. They can't put the ball in the net.
I left the recording, the game. Yeah. But as soon as I heard that they didn't do it, I didn't.
Delete that. Clear some space off the hard drive for that one. They don't even have to worry about it. So that's exactly. Look, we talked about this a moment ago. Do you like the idea of going right from 90 minutes into a shootout unless it's the finals of the Copa?
Come again?
You play 90 minutes of soccer. Normally you have extra time before going to shootouts. You have the extra extended time. Do you like going right from the 90 minutes plus stoppages directly to shootouts, or would you like to see some extended time?
No, extended time.
Oh, because you're a purist.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I've been watching soccer since the days of the great Pelé. I have his autograph ball. I've been following soccer since 1960, I believe.
Oh, my God. I wasn't even born. Good job there, Luis. Very nice. Way to date yourself on the program. I like that.
But I want to see you in person. I've been telling Leticia. In fact, she says hello.
Thank you. Tell Leticia hello for me.
Thank you, sir. So you can see the albums that I have on trading cards and memorabilia. And I tell Leticia, there's nobody but Steve Kaplowitz, numero uno, babe, that will appreciate this.
Oh, my God. I got to see the card collection. One of these days, I need to come over, stop by, say hi to Leticia, and take a look at that card collection of yours. That would be fun.
Finally. I'm very sad, heartbroken. What's happening to my Yankees?
Oh, they're getting pounded again tonight. Carlos Rodon is getting hit tonight by the Reds. It's not good. It is not good. The pitching's not there. That's the biggest problem right now. The pitching's not there.
Okay, final question.
Yes.
What's going to happen with CeeDee Lamb? Don't tell me that he's going to be traded.
Nah, I think the Cowboys will pay him. I think CeeDee Lamb's going to get his money when it's all said and done.
Man, I love you, and the best to you, to your family, to that beautiful, wonderful kid, and all the blessings that you've received from your dad, from heaven or whatever you believe. But you are unique. Your family, my respect to you. I love you, man.
Love you too. Shalom, baby.
Shalom.
There he is. Luis, wrapping up hour 2 of the program. We'll come back. We got 30 to go. What a call. Sports Talk, 600 ESPN El Paso.
River Oaks Properties Schoolyard Sports Studio. Here's Steve Kaplowitz and Adrian Broadus.
Welcome back. We've got one to go. Actually, 30 minutes to go here on Sports Talk, or shall we say 26 minutes, because we're winding things down. We're getting ready for story time with Hags. We've got Alberto Urueta here. We have Michael Plundo here. And, of course, the man, Adrian Broadus, running the show, taking care of business for us as we continue. 505-6009. That is our telephone number. Let us begin our final hour with Domingo, who joins us next. What's going on, Domingo?
Hi, guys. We're ready for the 4th of July tomorrow?
We are. What are your plans, Domingo? What are you doing?
Don't have any yet. Don't have any. Probably go to my uncle's. I still don't know yet.
When you go to your uncle's house, what do you usually expect from like food-wise from your uncle on July 4th?
The usual hot dogs and burgers and chips.
All right, hot dogs. Oh, do you have chips and queso?
Yeah, and my personal favorite, sabritones.
Oh, there you go. All right, that sounds like a winner.
Okay, I would like to talk about the last fellow who said about Mexico should bring Vasco Aguirre. I don't think so. Vasco Aguirre already been coaching Mexico twice.
You don't want to see him back for a third time?
It would be crazy, but the last time Vasco Aguirre did a national team, he caught the scandal in when he was the manager of the Japanese team years ago, because of the unfortunate Asian Cup early exit, and there was some kind of a scandal, the Japanese fired him.
You tell me, Alberto, should we be, would a third time be a charm in Mexico?
I think so. I think, yeah. I know that, he might not like it and you might not think it's the right idea, but I think that what he brings to the table would kind of shake things up and take a step in the right direction. But, I mean, with the whole Japan thing, and it would be his third time, I kind of understand the doubts.
Yeah, I hear you.
And actually, I want to talk about today, like what you said yesterday about Klinsmann and the others. If we could get foreign managers, and I will say this, I'll give you 2 examples of foreign managers who were good on the foreign team and 2 bad. First, the good one would be Gus Hiddink, who led South Korea to the World Cup semis and led Australia to their first World Cup in 30 years in '06. And another good one would be Bora Muchabodi, who led the 5 foreign teams to 5 World Cups. 2 were he hosted, USA, Mexico, then took Saudi Arabia, Costa Rica, and China to the World Cup. From the span of 86 to 02. Real good, huh?
It's been 22 years. It's a long time ago. 1980. How old were you in 1986?
I was born in '86.
There you go. There's your answer.
And I'm going to give you. Well, I want to give you 2 bad examples of foreign managers who coach national teams. One would be Terry Venables, who tried to get Australia to the World Cup, but we know what happened. I already know what happened. Iran beat it them in the way goals, and the other one would be. Let me think of a good one. Here's a good one. World Cup winning manager Marcelo Lippi, who won in Italy in '06, attempted to get to the World Cup with China, but failed.
All right, Domingo.
And there's a lot more, but that's way too much. I think I'm going to have to say for another time.
There you go, man. Happy 4th. Take care. Appreciate the call.
Thank you, Cappy. Happy 4th, and happy 4th, everybody.
All right, take it easy, man. Domingo chiming in. Hey, we're getting a little run on soccer calls here in the last 10 minutes of the show.
Yeah, he was going crazy there, and I don't know. I think that with the thing about the Mexico job is a lot of the coaches that are throwing up in the air, and or people want to bring in is do they want the job? So it's got to be a 2-way. They got to want to come and participate in the job. And
is there a coach in Liga MX right now that you believe if he took over the Mexican national team, based on what you've seen in the top division of Mexican professional soccer, could absolutely have an impact on the best players in the world that play in Mexico?
No, I really don't think so, because there needs to be like sweeping structural changes to the whole league and the whole federation. And at the end of the day, you need like a crazy character to come in and set those structural changes, and that's not really going to happen.
See, like you need basically like the late Diego Maradona. He's that kind of personality, somebody that just comes in that you said it, just takes over and has the personality to challenge the system, buck the system, and make changes.
Yeah, and that's really hard to find, because when you have people who are already involved in things like that, they can be easily corrupted. And at the end of the day, Liga MX and the Federation, it's all about money.
Well,
and that's why they play games in the U.S.
It's true. That is true. Well, that's because the U.S. will post we'll post the kind of money to make it happen. So
yeah, and they sell them out.
Exactly.
The supporters here will buy the product regardless of the continuous bad results in the international tournaments. So, I mean, as long as they sell out Houston, Dallas, L.A., Las Vegas, the Federation and Liga MX don't really care what the consumer thinks.
Esteban wants to know why Domingo keeps yelling every time he calls in. That's his style, Esteban. That's it. That's
excited.
He does. He gets worked up. Listen, there are some callers that when they call into the show, they do get excited. They get a little animated as callers. And Domingo is one of those individuals. So, he pumps himself up when he talks.
I appreciate the passion.
Me too. Like when I asked him about, what his uncle's going to be serving on July 4th, he really didn't get that excited. He was almost downplaying the burgers, hot dogs, and chips.
Burgers, hot dogs, the usual.
But when he started talking soccer, all of a sudden, it was like he finds another gear on this program.
He's ready to go. Yeah, exactly. That's what he's passionate about. Appreciate that passion.
Yeah, all right. 11 past the hour as we continue here on Sports Talk. Tim Haggerty is going to deliver a special edition of Story Time here today, because we will not be on air tomorrow for the 4th or Friday. We get a rare Friday off, and we'll look forward to coming back with you after today's show Monday at 4 o'clock for another edition of Sports Talk. In the meantime, let's take our final time out. When we come back, Tim Haggerty will wrap us up and get us ready for Chihuahuas baseball. And it's coming up right here, 600 ESPN El Paso.